Guys, welcome into my college football best bets here for bowl season. And let me just explain, this is super preliminary. We are going to get so much more data. This is just my instant thought. And I've got 20 bets that I really do like right now. Again, we're going to get opt-outs. We're going to get things like that. But I wanted to get these out, see if anyone agrees, disagrees, things like that. Really exploit some of these games before the lines start to shift one way or another. And we're going to go through this, and it's going to be a bunch of spreads. And then the over-unders are kind of like in the second part of the bet. So there's just going to be a bunch of spreads to start, and I'll talk about it again. We're going to get a lot of data. This is really early. This is just the current vibe I'm feeling on these games, starting with UAB minus the 11 versus Miami of Ohio. UAB is significantly better than Miami of Ohio. I've seen several metrics that actually have Miami as the worst team currently in a... Well, actually, that's wrong. I think New Mexico State now has that title, but Miami is not a good team at all. UAB is better than their 6-6 record. They've been one of the most unlucky teams in college football. 11 points, in my opinion, is not enough. If this is the first bowl game, I would think UAB would win this game. I would also, if I was forced to, I would take the over in this game. I think it's like 44. I've got UAB scoring possibly 40 points by themselves. I think they win this game big. Personally, Fresno State +2 versus Washington State. So I've seen a lot of different lines. I've seen Fresno State +4, +3.5, +2. I think Fresno State wins this game outright. Washington State has really not had a good close to their season. And Fresno State, we know the situation with the starting quarterback being injured earlier in the year. But how about the Fresno State defense against Boise State? That was a really impressive performance, shutting them down. And point blank period, I think they win this game outright. So I will take them +2. Next, we have Florida plus the 7.5 versus Oregon State. I really think Florida, as long as Anthony Richardson plays in this game, there is speculation. What is he going to do? I would think he would be back at Florida next year, but you really never know with these kids and with the draft and with teams falling in love with a project quarterback. Could he try and enter the draft and maybe even be a first-round pick? I don't know. This is all speculation. We're going to have to wait and see. You're not going to want to place any bets right now for sure because we don't know about the opt-outs, but I'm looking at this line and it strikes me as great value considering Florida went on the road at FSU and really hung in against a good Florida State team and scored a lot of points. Now they're on a neutral site against an Oregon State team that they're probably more talented than. Now, sure, Oregon State as a team is better, and I think Oregon State wins this game, but 7.5 is just too much. I think it's going to be closer, possibly a 3-point game, so I will take Florida and their talent to cover there. Western Kentucky +5 versus South Alabama. I just think Western Kentucky has a significantly better offense than South Alabama, and South Alabama's defense doesn't compensate enough for them to be 5-point favorites. I think Western Kentucky wins this game outright. That's just my opinion. Western Kentucky always seems to play well during the bowl season. And to be honest, I would make this maybe a pick'em. Again, I know Western Kentucky's been inconsistent. South Alabama's been good. But that offense, it's really enticing to take them with the 5, point value there. Houston -4 versus Louisiana. So Houston is your typical good bowl team to bet on against a team like Louisiana. They're going to score a ton. They've been scoring a ton in the second half of the year. We know what they did against a decent East Carolina team. They destroyed them 42-3 late in the season. So right now, Houston, they drop a 40 burger on Louisiana. They're covering this line very easily. Louisiana is not as good as they were last year. They're a decent program. I give them credit, but they're facing a tough team in Houston who really should be in a better bowl. I believe they underachieved. Number 6, Missouri plus the 3.5 versus Wake Forest. Something feels off about Wake Forest, guys. They can't run the ball. They can't play defense. Missouri is a team. They're feisty. They hang in there. They're well coached. I think they win this game outright over Wake Forest. It's just the current vibe I'm getting. Both of these teams entering the bowl season. Missouri coming off that Black Friday win against Arkansas at home. So they've got some energy. I will say, I think Wake Forest overall with Sam Hartman is a better team, but Missouri matches up well against them. They're going to keep it lower scoring, and I've got them winning the game outright, so I'll take them plus the 3.5. Memphis minus 10 versus Utah State. It's just simply not enough points. I will say that Memphis is really inconsistent, but Utah State, they're just not a good team. They're just not a good football team. I think, the several early preliminary models I've looked at have Memphis winning this game by around 17 points. So them minus 10 is really good value. I would expect this game to go Memphis minus 13.5, maybe minus 14 by kickoff. A lot of money is going to go on Memphis. The models love Memphis. Or you know what? Maybe they don't love Memphis. They just dislike Utah. I'm shocked Utah State made a bowl, honestly. Next, we have UCF minus the 2.5 versus Duke. So, UCF to me is about 7 points better than Duke. I understand the injury concerns with the quarterback. As long as he's good to play, they're going to beat Duke, and you would figure if they win the game, odds are they'll be able to win it by more than 2 points. So I have them covering that. And Duke's had a good season, guys. Don't get me wrong. But UCF has just been better this year, in my opinion. UCLA minus 4 versus Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh dealing with the transfer portal situation with the quarterback. UCLA, Chip Kelly, this is right in his wheelhouse. You're facing a team that has a roster influx. You've got a veteran quarterback. You've got a veteran running back as long as Zach Charbonnet plays. I see UCLA scoring 35, maybe upwards of 40 points in this one, which should amount to a decent cover in my opinion. Ohio State plus the 6.5 versus Georgia. So guys, the current state of this game, there's a lot of money right now being dumped on Georgia. I think they're going to force to really get this line pushed up to 7. Once the books adjust this line to 7 or even 7.5, certainly go in on Ohio State. Hammer Ohio State plus 6.5. Hammer Ohio State money line. But again, if you do want to bet on Ohio State, there's a ton of money on Georgia. I think they're going to have to adjust most of the books and move them up half a point to at least 7, maybe even 7.5. The line opened at 7. It was immediately bet down to 6.5. But again, more and more money today. I've seen it's about 80% going in on Georgia minus 6.5. So I would probably wait for it to go to 7 or 7.5 and then get Ohio State at better value. I would be shocked if this line fell to 6 or 5.5 based on the current state of where the money is going, at least what I'm looking at in terms of about 80% of the money going in on Georgia right now to cover the 6.5. I've talked about this game before. It is not a good matchup for Georgia. They do not have a good pass defense. Ohio State is going to bring out JSN, Marvin Harrison Jr., and that offense, and they're going to go really up-tempo, which will eliminate Georgia's pass rushing ability. They will all be tired. It's the same exact thing that happened during the SEC championship game last year when Alabama boat raced a number 1 overall Georgia team. I think that happens in this one. So Ohio State plus 6.5 is certainly the play, but I would wait even a little bit because that line's probably going to climb. Illinois plus 1.5 versus Mississippi State. So I think Illinois wins this game outright. They're an underrated football team. They actually can throw. It's a common misconception, at least in the second half of the year. Their quarterback's been able to throw a little bit. They also have Chase Brown. Mississippi State, honestly, they're a team, all they do is throw. They don't have a running game. Illinois is just they're such more of a complete football team with the offense and defense. This is a 27-24 type game that Illinois, even with worse talent, they've got the coaching, they've got the overall complete roster, Chase Brown, that defense. They've got a young, upcoming superstar defensive coordinator. I think they win that game outright against Mississippi State. LSU minus 6.5 versus Purdue. To me, this is your typical SEC bowl bloodbath. It seems like every year there's 1 or 2 SEC teams that just have so much more talent than the opposition, and they really, really just ram it down their throat because there is motivation if you're Brian Kelly coming off that bad loss to win this game and win it in a big, emphatic way to go into the offseason with momentum. I think they're going to crush Purdue personally, win this game by at least double digits, so I will go minus 6.5 there. Now we have the over-unders. So Rice versus Southern Miss, we're taking the under 48.5. I am not, confident at all Rice is going to score, and Southern Miss doesn't have an explosive offense. They're really a run-first team anyways. So I think that plays right into the under 48.5. That is a pre-Christmas bowl game. I think it's like on the 19th maybe or 20th. Middle Tennessee State versus San Diego State. We also, guys, in this game, San Diego State -1.5 is also a really good play. But we do like the under right now, the 47.5. This game happening on Christmas Eve. We're getting a big under vibe in that one with San Diego State controlling that game and keeping it really, really low scoring. North Carolina versus Oregon, the under 73.5. It's just too many points. I think Oregon will control this game. North Carolina's offense has been bad anyways recently, and I don't think North Carolina is going to score enough points to supply the over 73.5 hitting. You could see something like a 49-20. I think the under hits in that case, so that would be a real blowout. It is tough with these bowl games because if you get such a lopsided score where Oregon's up by 28 in the third quarter, you're going to see possibly some garbage time things happening. But I just saw that at 73.5, and it seemed really high for a North Carolina team whose offense has really been struggling recently. Next, we have Oklahoma versus Florida State, the over 62. There should be a lot of points scored in that game. I don't think 62 is a high enough number. So that just struck me as a little bit low for a Florida State offense that's got a really good quarterback. You take a look at Oklahoma, their game against Texas Tech, they're scoring like crazy. As long as there are no opt-outs in that game, I love the over. Ohio versus Wyoming, the under 44.5. Guys, these Wyoming games always go under, and this is another phenomenal spot for an under to hit. Ohio, without their starting quarterback, coming off a 7-point performance. Wyoming is a team that, again, they like lower scoring games. That's the type of style they want to play. 44.5 is not close to low enough, in my opinion. Iowa versus Kentucky. Okay, this was a joke. I would probably say not to bet this. I'm shocked this number is this low. It's at 31.5. I'm guessing they think Will Levis is not going to play. I mean, guys, I would really recommend taking Iowa +3 if there is concerns that Will Levis is not going to play. The over-under at 31.5, I would bet the under just to say you did because it's funny. I mean, that is a very low number. That would be the lowest number of the season. I think the other game was Iowa versus someone else, maybe Iowa-Minnesota, where I think the over-under was 32.5. So 31.5 in a bowl game versus Kentucky. Both of these teams defensive-minded, run first, and I like Iowa to win the game outright. That is a crazy number, though, that I wanted to show. Ohio State versus Georgia, definitely the over 61. You take a look at Ohio State, getting all their receivers back. Georgia just dropped 50 on LSU. They can score a ton in a dome. Higher scoring game. I would certainly expect that, and I would certainly think this number would get bet up, especially if there is news that JSN is going to be playing for Ohio State. That is not high enough. Those two teams, Georgia's defense, they have a good D-line, but it's very shaky in the secondary. And then Ohio State, we thought they kind of had a good defense, but you see what Michigan did to them. Georgia's going to be able to score on the Buckeyes. Certainly, that's going to be a higher scoring game in my opinion. And then Tulane versus USC, the under 63. It struck me as a little bit high of a number with USC dealing with a possible injury to Caleb Williams. Maybe that's just my speculation. Maybe he is fine. Maybe he heals completely and he's 100%. But we do have to remember, this is a 1 o'clock game. It's the Cotton Bowl. I think the atmosphere is going to be a little bit down, and it could create a better low-scoring environment to where even if you get a game that's 30-27, the under hits. So I know it would be risky because we've seen USC games, and whether USC wins or loses, there's been points. I mean, USC-Utah was way over. USC-Notre Dame was over. USC games have points in them. So this is going to be something I'm going to be watching. But right now, 63 did strike me as a little bit of a high number. This is me betting on Tulane being able to, find their footing and kind of control this game a little bit on offense and really ball control. I think USC is only 2-point favorites, but there is a lot of early money being bet on USC, guys. -2. I should say that. But either way, guys, this is super early. This is just what I think right now. It's 20 picks. I will probably actually update this next week and give you guys a part 2 because we don't have any bowl games happening until next Thursday, not this Thursday, or like next Wednesday or something like that. It's midweek next week. So next Monday, there's still going to be no bowl game. So I can actually do a part 2 and update it. I'm just saying right now, this is my super early look at all of these bowl games. And then there is the Army-Navy game going on. Certainly, you would think about betting the under in that game. I believe the under has hit in like 10 straight years or something, and the over-under is 33.5 in that one. And also, according to the models that I've looked at, there is significant value on Army -1, according to models that I've looked at. So, guys, these are just early look at my top 20 best bets for bowl season. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that is always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.